Hi, my name is Chris Brown, and today on this special segment of ClosePoint Café, I have my very first guest, someone who to me is everything. She's the rock of our family, and she is somebody that exudes a positive feeling and confidence, not just in me and our family, but the people that work around us. She does things in a way that calms people, provides confidence and happiness. So today I want to introduce you to somebody very special to me and our kids, my wife, Deanna. Hi, Deanna.
Thank you, Chris. That was special.
Well, you're welcome. So I wanted to start off this ClosePoint Cafe segment with an introduction to who we are and how our business has evolved over the many years that we've been together. And I also want you to start from where you were and what your background is and kind of how, your path followed into what we are today.
Sure.
So
it was back many years. You and I have worked together for over 20 years now, close to 22 years. And that was totally by accident,
Yep.
If you recall, and it was supposed to be temporary. So before we started our family, I had a very fulfilling career in banking. I was a I was a banking officer with a local bank that then rolled into a national bank. Then, with your support, went and took a great job with JP Morgan as a banking officer there, and got to enjoy some sort of higher level things. But then, when we made the decision to start our family, I got a little caught off guard after our first son was born with some pretty immediate postpartum depression. And thankfully, I had your support and understanding to give me a little bit of patience to work through some of those things, to get my feet under me again. And when I was ready to return to the workforce, it was just supposed to be a few hours a week, just helping you out, just
Right.
to feel confident again.
So
And that was 22 years ago.
So before we go into, that phase, but prior to you going into banking, I think you're missing a big part. You graduated from TCNJ with a degree in business.
Oh, you want me to go back that far?
I want you to go back because I think it lays the groundwork to who you are and what you're capable of doing. And, start from, you graduated from TCNJ and then...
Well, let's go really far back.
Okay.
Let's go back. When I was in the 5th grade, my mom tells this story a lot, that I went to her one day and I said, "Mom, I'm really bored in school. I think I just want to skip the 5th grade." And she looked at me like I had two heads. But then somehow over the course of the next few months, that ended up happening. And that was a real thing. And I think if I look back on my whole life and you have to identify like those 6 pivotal moments, that was a huge pivotal moment for me because it changed the course of who I would socialize with over my time in high school and college. It changed the timing of meeting you and that relationship. So that was really a huge, but I learned so much about myself in that moment. I didn't really understand until then that the world could be a tough place.
Right.
But it was a great learning experience, and it taught me sort of my first introduction to resiliency and overcoming a challenge and persevering. So then I went on to, graduate high school. I went to TCNJ, which at that time was Trenton State College.
But let's talk about what rank did you graduate high school with?
I was second in my class.
But really...
Yeah, my mom tells this story too. There might have been a little bit of dispute. I could have possibly been first in my class, but my mom was ready to dispute it. She was ready to go to task on the math with the school, and I told her that I cared too much about the person who I was in competition with.
Who was a friend?
A good friend, who experienced, I think, a lot of challenge, within her family in terms of expectation. And I knew what I had accomplished, was pleased with what I had accomplished, and I wanted her to enjoy that same feeling.
So
It wasn't about the number for me. It was about the friendship and the relationship.
And you put somebody before yourself.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Because that's who you are.
Well, thanks.
You put everybody before you. So you graduate high school, and you go to...
Yeah, I went to Trenton State College at the time. That was probably a lot of a financial decision, but also I felt like I was going to get a very, quality education. Had a great experience there. Came out of it and sort of went right into the banking industry.
Right.
Started with, at the time, what was a prominent bank in my market, Commerce Bank, which then got bought out by TD Bank out of Canada. So I got to go through that experience. And then I remember coming home shortly after we were married and played the answering machine, if you remember what those are, and played the answering machine. And somebody said, "Oh, we received your resume, Deanna, and we'd love for you to come for an interview." And I was confused and waited for you to come home,
Right.
only to find out that you were tired of hearing me complain about some things that were going on at work. And so you sent my resume out.
I did. I sent a resume out to JP Morgan.
Yep. And they called.
And they called. And I was like, whoa. Kind of did it on a whim, but amazingly enough.
It was, and again, if I go back and look at, maybe those handful of sort of life-changing moments, that was a huge one, because that experience, that professional experience, took me outside of New Jersey and really opened my eyes to how big the world was. And I think I really needed that, not just for, how I would approach my professional career, but how I would want to see my children approach, that point in their lives,
Sure.
seeing the world much bigger than I ever did as just sort of being
Absolutely.
a kid from South Jersey. Yeah.
So you went to graduate school.
I did. As I was with JP Morgan, had a great opportunity to get my professional schooling paid for. So I went on to get my master's in accounting. So I have a bachelor's in business, a master's in accounting. I sat for the CPA exam and did
Pretty
pass
well.
it on my first try.
Passed all three parts on the first
student,
try.
Remember? But I chose not to go in that direction.
Right.
I didn't want to be a licensed CPA, and I think if I really look back, it was so much about just feeling the value of relationship and not wanting to sort of get stuck in a bunch of numbers all the time. But was having a wonderful experience
Right.
in the banking world, getting to see Manhattan, getting to see a business sort of grow and build into other markets. JP Morgan was moving into Delaware. So that was a huge experience for me. And it was as grateful as I am that you were there to support me when we started our family, and that you really didn't even hesitate in giving me that space. It was a little bit bittersweet because I had worked so hard to build a reputation
Right.
and build relationships and demonstrate my work ethic and what I was capable of, and had to kind of table that for a little while.
So fast forward a little bit in the future, my title agency was growing. And we've been in business at that point 5 years. And we decided to buy RE/MAX offices throughout the state of New Jersey, which amassed to 7 different offices, over 250 agents, and there were years where we did 1,500 transactions to 2,200 transactions. And the accounting aspect became critical to our success. And that's where you came in to take over the function of CFO for our company. So talk about that and how that led into where we are today.
Yeah, I remember when we first started working together, and we would have these conversations, and I remember we were saying, do we think we need a logo, or should we invest in
right.
some pens?
I know.
It just seems, when we think in hindsight of how much has changed
No,
in
completely.
25
I know.
years. Let's get
was-
some nice pens for the clients,
Right. Forget about website, forget about direct mail marketing,
yeah,
forget about
exactly.
digital media, or even doing this segment that we're
Yeah,
doing right now.
Exactly,
So,
podcasts and funnels and clicks and likes, those weren't things
Not
25
even.
years ago.
not even.
But yeah, there was, I think, certainly an opportunity to leverage my accounting, banking, right, financial background for sure, and to be a support, and to continue to invest in something that we have, I think, always viewed as a partnership.
Yep, always.
That, and I think what has allowed us to take what we thought was going to be temporary and have it exist and thrive as long as it has is because we're so different. And you can't always put two different people in a room and get, I think, the type of synergy that we get. I think on some level we're lucky, but on some level it's really intentional too, that you sort of have your strengths and your intention, your path, your lane, and I have mine. And we work to make sure that we're complementing each other. And so I think me being in that financial role and serving and sort of letting you sort of be in this sort of relationship driver's seat, if you will, was huge. It just was very complimentary.
The biggest thing was creating systems. I think you leveraged a lot of your banking and JP Morgan experience and brought those into our company to create seamless systems to allow us to rely on them, number one, and number two, to grow and to deliver services to our agents, all 250 of them plus, and to our title company, our employees, creating a PEO or professional employer organization to service all those entities. That model's been there since day one, and it's still there. And it's been truthfully a godsend because we were able to hire and service competent people, and that's a tribute to you. So fast forward even further, we now have 17 years under our belt. We're going into 2020. And I say, I don't want to manage real estate anymore. I just want to be what I was and always have been, a title guy. Someone who manages real estate transactions and brings people to the table. And once you pick up from what happened in those years and to, land us into what we are now.
Sure. So at that point, we had probably been sort of franchise brokerage owners for, like you say, 15, 17 years.
17 years.
And we knew in that moment, you in particular, but me, of course, as your sidekick, understood what the pain points were.
Equal
right?
partner, not sidekick.
Well, we understood, though, what our pain points were in that role and what we wanted to change for ourselves. But you and I both had tremendous consideration and weight on the relationships that we had built over those 17 years.
Yes.
So that decision, whatever was going to come next, that was going to take care of those pain points, wasn't going to be just about addressing our needs, but it was going to be about respecting the relationships that we had formed over all those years.
Because we have agents who've been with us since day one.
All that time.
Yeah, many of them.
All that time.
Yeah.
And that's what I think led directly to EXP Realty as an option, that we made the decision not to continue down the franchise brokerage path, that when the time came to make the decision to renew or not renew, we, laid out our cards and said not renewing, had some challenging, sometimes difficult conversations with agents to try and lay out and articulate the value proposition and make the move. And now we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary.
3 years.
Having turned that corner. Proud to say that in that moment, we were a little over 60 agents, 62, 63
67
agents.
agents.
And in that moment, I think at least 60 of the 60,
Correct.
several, right, came. And I think that was a huge testament to the amount of trust and respect and relationship that we had built, that at the time, a brand that really wasn't so well known in our market, much more well known on the West Coast, right? That people were taking a leap.
It was a leap of faith. Yeah. Big one.
But what we really talked about, and I think what was well articulated, was how much this was going to bring new opportunity to every agent, not just to the two of us. And that's what it was all about. And so I'm tremendously proud of that moment, how you and I together handled it, and how we turned that corner and like I said, opened all of these doors for our team of agents that weren't open to them before.
I agree. And in that time period, I was able to focus on what I wanted to focus on and develop ClosePoint USA and be able to partner with all these different teams that are so talented in what they do. It was natural for you to become the team leader of Connection Realtors. and me just, focus on the expansion of our settlement company, title company. But in that time period for you, you've also hooked up with two other partners, with Christian Giamenko and Gene Kratansky, who also had their own set of agents and their own team. Why don't you describe that relationship?
Yeah, sure. So I think in the moment, we made the move first. So at the time, learning a new brokerage, taking on the role of, team leader, there was a lot for me to sort of, and going back to 5th grade, right, there's a challenge. One of the first things I would set out to do is make sure I learned as much as I could, as quickly as I could. And that was that same position again 3 years ago. Right. Learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can, especially when I saw that there were other teams coming behind us that if we could make this easier for them and smoother for them, I was going to do whatever it took to do that. So it was about building systems, documenting the experience, yes, and then finding ways that whatever value I could offer would be meaningful to everybody who sort of crossed that bridge behind me, whether it be as a team member or as a team leader. Right. And so now we're in a place where, those 3 teams, our team included, we were, maybe about 180 people collectively. We've now been able to grow that sort of network, if you will, primarily in the New Jersey market, but expanding a little bit into other areas. But we've grown that number to over 450 agents.
Wow.
And that's been a lot about not just having the systems and tech stacks and support, if you will, but it's been about relationship building and showing agents who have been in this business for a long period of time that there are solutions, that there are opportunities that they've never been exposed to before, and to sort of open their eyes to it. I think one of the biggest challenges that a real estate agent can face is, how do I plan for retirement? How do I see an end game? How do I see an opportunity to maybe just pull back a little bit, even from real estate? The challenge is production is king. So if you stop producing, does that mean that your income stops? Does that mean that your lifestyle has to drastically change? Well, we have solutions for that now that we couldn't
right.
show and share
100%.
3+ years ago. And I think that's a huge game changer.
Big time. Especially now with all the changes.
Yes.
With NAR and all the different relationships that have to be created between the realtor and the consumer. There needs to be a new system built.
Absolutely.
And are you on top of that?
I sure am.
I kind of figured you would be.
So what I think is really what I'm excited about, so if you read so much of what's been happening in the headlines, the real estate industry has really been taking it on the chin, right? And you layer on top of that this sort of instant gratification society that has evolved. I feel like over maybe the last 10 or 15 years, where everybody wants instant access, instant answers, and have gotten away from sort of the relationship.
The consultation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here we are, I think, in a huge moment where we're coming full circle, where the relationship will once again take center stage, it will once again be valued, and it will once again be the sort of cornerstone of the agent-client experience going forward.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see an old concept of individual rebirth, I guess, fit into a digital, quick, instant gratification. I want to go see this property right now. No, I have to meet with you and discuss, my services, my value proposition, and you have to sign this contract.
Yes.
Because in order for you to see a property for me to take you, you have to have a buyer's agency agreement.
That's right.
Which has been around forever.
It has been
so
around
it's going to be
forever.
Interesting that these two worlds are going to collide in the real estate industry and create some havoc. And it's really going to be more for not so much the agents, but the consumer.
Absolutely.
So, what system what approach has EXP taken to deliver this change, for the newer agent that's now in the industry, somebody who's been around for 10 years, or 5 years. I mean, somebody who's beyond 10 years remembers consultation. Somebody who's been within a decade didn't really deal with consultation.
Well, I think regardless, quite frankly, of whether you're brand new in the business or you've been in the business a long time, what I've been talking about for probably over a year now, sort of seeing the writing on the wall. I was plugged into a lot of these headlines when they were sort of on page 5, 6, and 7 of the newspaper, not front page. And so what I've been really emphasizing is staying on top of your relationships and leveling up your sort of game plan, whether that be in the way that you approach a consultation, in the way that you're able to articulate what value you as an agent bring to the transaction. This is about you being an absolute start to finish resource to your clients. I was even just talking with a group earlier today. And it's not just about, let me take you to see a house, let me get you to contract, let me get you to settlement, job done. This is about helping them down the road when they may have an issue with their home, or may want to consider a refinance, or maybe they need an attorney or a handyman or a painter.
Right.
It's about being the all-around resource when it comes to home ownership. And it's about being that person who can aspire or help others to aspire to being homeowners. The agent has to level up what they see their role to be. And this is a great opportunity to educate the consumer and help correct all of those fallacies that maybe the media, or maybe this sort of whole reality TV corner of the world
that's true.
has helped to get us away from. Because the agents that I work with are helping veterans move around the country. The agents that I work with are sitting at kitchen tables as families grieve the loss of a loved one, trying to figure out what to do with the estate, what to do with the house. The agents that I work with handhold a renter who's so afraid to dip their toe in the home ownership waters that they are putting all of their trust and faith in that agent to help them get to the finish line. These are the people that I work with every day, and they're the people who take tremendous pride in the work that they do at those kitchen tables, in those living rooms, giving up, weekend after weekend, evenings away from their family to be able to help other families experience the greatest American dream there is, and that's homeownership. So I see this as a complete opportunity, start to finish, and I hope that every agent puts themselves in a position that they align with a brokerage, with a leader, with a team that also sees this as an opportunity. If you spend your time catching up, or if you spend your time looking at your glass as half empty, you're going to miss out on that opportunity.
Going to get ran over.
Yes.
Plain and simple.
You said it.
Well, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's been a great moment to share with you.
It's good to share with you. This is a new one for us.
So 27 years married and 4 kids later, and this is the first for our own little segment.
We checked the box today.
We checked the box today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.